UFC 297 Sean Strickland vs Dricus du Plessis takes place at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Canada on January 20th. In this video, I am going to be giving you my predictions for each fight, as well as a small breakdown of each fight. This includes the fights on the main cards, the preliminaries, and the early preliminaries. Something I do differently than other prediction videos is that I put my numbers on the screen. In the green is the number of fights I have predicted correctly, and in the red is the number of fights I have predicted wrong. Currently, I am 6-4. That means out of 10 fights, I have guessed 6 correctly, which means I get my prediction right 100% of the time, 60% of the time. And that number constantly changes from a week-to-week basis. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first fight we are looking at is Malcolm Gordon, who looks a little like Gollum, versus Jimmy Flick. When it comes to striking, both men have very close stats. However, Malcolm Gordon is definitely the better striker, with Jimmy having a 5.05 absorb per minute and a 38% defense. Malcolm is going to have the advantage in striking. Jimmy Flick is primarily a grappler with an impressive win rate of 88% by submission, but Malcolm does have good grappling himself, and I believe his grappling is going to be enough to negate Jimmy Flick's grappling. I think Malcolm Gordon is the more well-rounded fighter, and that's why my pick for this fight is going to be Malcolm Gordon. Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Priscilla Cachoeira is the next fight we're looking at. The striking of Jasmine is far better than Priscilla, and so is the grappling. The odds also favor it Jasmine very heavily. This is an open and shut case for me. I think Jasmine Jasudavicius is going to come away with the win. The next fight taking place in the early prelims is going to be Johan Lainez versus Sam Patterson. This, in my opinion, is going to be a very close fight. Both men have similar striking stats. When we look at the grappling stats, there is not much to see besides a takedown defense of 80% for Johan. But if we take a glance at the win-by rate, Johan has a 75% KO rate with a 25% decision rate. Sam Patterson has a 40% KO rate with a 50% sub rate. Overall, I do feel Sam Patterson does have more tools in the toolbox, so Sam Patterson is going to be my official pick for this fight. In the next battle, we will look at Polyana Viana versus Jelaine Robertson. Both women are close when it comes to striking, but I have to give the edge to Viana, as her absorb per minute is less and her landed per minute is just a little more. The grappling does favor Robertson, but I think Viana is good enough to grapple to stay out of any real danger. Overall, I do believe that Viana is the better fighter, so she is going to be my pick for this fight. Ramon Tavares versus City, I hope I said that right, I probably didn't and I apologize, is the next scrap we're going to be picking apart. These two don't have much stats on the UFC website, so we will have to use Sheerdog. Siri, I don't know how you say it, is 10-1 with the following ratings: 70% TKO, 10% sub, and a 20% decision. Ramon Tavares, on the other hand, is 9-2 with the following rating: 56% TKO, 33% sub, and 11% decision. Based off just the records, because that's really the only thing I have to go on, I am going to go with Ramon Tavares to win this fight, as it seems, based on the data I have, he is the more well-rounded fighter. The next one is going to be Sean Woodson versus Charles Air Jourdain. This, in my opinion, is probably going to be one of the more entertaining fights of the night. Striking is almost dead even, which you hardly ever see. When it comes to grappling, Sean Woodson does have a big advantage according to these stats. When we compare the win-by rate, we can see that Charles Jourdain can grapple himself as well. Now, I am a little bit biased here. I am a huge Charles Air Jourdain fan. If the fight goes a distance, I definitely think Sean Woodson is going to win. However, I do not think it's going to go the distance, and I think Charles Air Jourdain is going to win this fight. The next fight is going to be Garrett Armfield versus Brad Katona. The striking stats show us that Garrett Armfield, in my opinion, is the better striker. He has a higher landed per minute with a 5.29 compared to Brad's 4.8. He also has a much lower absorb per minute of 3.52 compared to a 4.57 of Brad's. He has a 57% defense rating, so I definitely think Garrett has advantage when it comes to striking. Unfortunately, the grappling stats don't tell us much on the UFC's website, but when we head to the win-by, we can see that Garrett has a 63% rating for knockouts and TKOs and a 38% submission rating. Brad Katona has a 7% KO rating and a 20 29% submission rating and a 64% decision rating. In my opinion, I think Garrett is the more well-rounded fighter, which is why he is my pick for this fight. If you guys are enjoying the video, please be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, as it really does help the channel grow. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below as well. If you have any ideas for future videos or ideas on how I can make this one better, please let me know. I'm always trying to improve. I promise you, well, I guess I can't promise you, but I can guarantee that in a year, I'm gonna make some of the best MMA content here on YouTube. And I know that's a pretty tall order. The next brawl we're going to take a look at is Arnold Allen versus Movsar Evloev. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. Taking a moment to look at the striking, it does favor Movsar slightly. When we look at the grappling, it obviously favors Movsar as well. Now, I do think Movsar will win this fight. However, I am a huge Arnold Allen fan and I really like the guy. And because of my own personal bias, I'm going to pick Arnold Allen to win this fight. We now take a look at Marc-Andre versus Chris Curtis. When we look at the significant strikes, we see that everything is pretty close. However, I think Marc-Andre is going to have the advantage here just because of the absorbed less per minute. When it comes to grappling, neither guy is really a wrestler. However, of the two, I think Chris Curtis has the advantage when it comes to grappling. Both of them have some solid takedown defense, but I expect this to be a brawl on the feet. I would normally pick Chris Curtis, but something in my gut is actually telling me to pick Marc-Andre. So I am going to pick Marc-Andre to win this fight. Mark Mallet versus Neil Magny is next in the lineup. When we look at the significant strikes, it is pretty even. However, Mark Mallet has a slight edge in my opinion, with a 4.21 landed per minute compared to Neil Magny's 3.45. When it comes to grappling, you would guess that Neil Magny has the edge. But if we turn our attention to the win-by section, we can see that Mike Mallet can definitely grapple with a 60% sub rate. Overall, I think Mike Mallet is the better fighter between the two. So I'm going to pick him. And unfortunately, it also pains me to say this, but Neil Magny is not the fighter he once used to be. I'm not saying he's a bad fighter, I'm just saying he's not the fighter he used to be. And I'm sorry for repeating myself. Moving to the co-main event, Mayra Bueno Silva versus Raquel Pennington. When it comes to striking, I think Mayra Silva has the overall advantage. When it comes to grappling, they're about even, but I would say Mayra is the better grappler. When we look at Mayra Bueno Silva's record, she has a 73% sub rate, which is very impressive. I think Mayra is the better overall fighter, and she is going to beat Raquel Pennington. Moving on to the main event, the thing I am most excited for, and you guys are probably most excited for, Sean Strickland versus Dricus Still Knox du Plessis. Before any Sean Strickland fans get upset, keep in mind what I am giving you guys is just a prediction. In no way or form am I saying it's going to be 100% correct. I'm just giving you my opinion. When it comes to striking, Dricus has the advantage in nearly every category. Landed per minute, significant strikes, absorbed per minute, but his defense is 53%, 10% lower than Sean's. However, I feel that Dricus is still the better overall striker. When it comes to grappling, although Sean Strickland does have a great takedown defense and good wrestling, the grappling of Dricus du Plessis cannot be underestimated. This dude can grapple. 2.72 takedown average, 50% takedown accuracy, 40% takedown defense, and a 1.09 submission average, which is really decent. When we look at the win-by section, it has a 45% knockout rating for Dricus and a 41% rating for Sean. However, the sub rating is an impressive 50% for Dricus, and it is only 15% to Sean Strickland. Overall, I do think Dricus is the better fighter when it comes to striking and or grappling. I definitely think Dricus is the more well-rounded fighter of the two gentlemen, and I do think Dricus du Plessis is going to win this fight pretty easily. I think he is going to melt Sean Strickland. I do not think this fight is going to go the distance. I think the fight may be over in one round. Sean Strickland is very good fighting at his own pace. He is good when the person is on their back foot. However, Dricus du Plessis is really never on his back foot. He is always constantly moving forward and exploding. Dricus du Plessis, in my opinion, is going to set the pace of this fight, and that is not going to go well for Sean Strickland. I also think Sean Strickland has lost the mental battle. I think Dricus du Plessis has gotten into his head. If you have been paying attention to the things Sean Strickland has been saying,
I actually sent him a message and I was like, dude, listen, Dricus, we're going to go try to murder each other. But if you bring that up again, I will stab you.
Yeah, I remember
Press conference, weigh in. You bring that, like,
he's gonna bring it up.
No, he was cool about it.
if you have been paying attention to what happened to Sean Strickland on the Theo Von podcast, you know it seems like the dude is not in the best place mentally. I believe that Dricus du Plessis has gotten to Sean Strickland the same way Conor McGregor got to Jose Aldo. And I think that is going to play a big factor in this fight. And also, just a really quick add-in, it does seem that Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis are kind of on okay terms. I got up this morning, I was watching the UFC Embedded vlog, and well, I seen this.
How you doing, man? Good, man. Good trip.
Mrs.
Yes.
How you doing, Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good trip.
Me too. Yeah, well, I know you hate the place, but yeah, cool.
All right, that's
Good luck
all I got.
again.
Right. Thanks again for being understanding.
Yeah, of course, man. Enjoy the week. Thank you. Good luck to you.
I think that's really cool how they set their differences aside and are kind of, I guess, on okay terms. And I know I just said that, but it's really nice to see. However, I do still think Dricus is in Sean Strickland's head just a little bit. And if you watched my video a few days ago, you know that I'm a huge fan of Sean Strickland. And I liked the dude even before he was popular. But at the end of the night, I think Dricus du Plessis is the better fighter. And I do think Dricus du Plessis is going to walk away the middleweight champion. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. What are your picks? Oh, also, my final prediction for this fight is that once it's over, Sean Strickland will propose to Dricus du Plessis, they will get married and live happily ever after.